Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to D365 Champs Power Platform Meetup. And this is a Hyderabad chapter first one. And Happy New Year to each and everyone. And as we did for the last year, we also started conducting all the meetups and all. This is the first meetup that we are conducting from starting from the Hyderabad. So let us directly go to the agenda. And in the coming slides, I will be giving all the details of how you can connect to us and all. And we'll be giving the details about the news, what are there, and the updates of the things that are happening in the 365 era of that particular events, and also the Power App related things. Okay, and the upcoming events. And the current today's agenda is about it is use SQL to query common data service preview. Now it has been returned to the Dataverse. You can also say by Sudheer Reddy Nelakurthi. And we do have the question and answers session at the end of this particular session. So let us just give me let me give a brief timeline about our community D365 Champs. So it has been started in the year 2018 by the community leads, realized the need of the local community in Southeast Asia. So it has started with a small idea, okay, between the few of the leads. And in the year 2019, 10 leads teamed up and started the first chapter in Singapore. Now the number of leads grew and Champ went global with the expansion on more countries. If you see in 2020, that is 2020, today we have members and leads in number of regions like Australia and South America, UK, India, Philippines, everything and all and more. LinkedIn following of approximately 5,000 users, and the Kaizala, we do have a separate group for the D365 champs to in order to share the knowledge and to help the other each other people. So we do have approximately 800 people. The future of us is a lot of new initiatives are coming up with respect to the D365 champs. Please stay tuned and if you wanted to connect us on the social media, we do have the LinkedIn related things handles are present in the same way Twitter and Kaizala, and you can also use the QR code with Kaizala, which is present here and all. And of course, if any of the persons wanted to speak to D365 Champs Power Platform Meetup, then please, you are all welcome to uh, take the role of a speaker, and you can also submit by using these particular links. And don't worry, these respective links will be shared out during the session, okay, in the form of chat window. And let us go to the quick updates that we got it. So in the current month of Jan 2021, the Power Automate desktop comes with latest updates. If you have not tried it about, just you can do it. There are a lot more interesting things that also came. And also we do have in the Jan 2021 release, new Dynamics 365 sales mobile experience are also been released in the 2020 one in the current month. And also now there is a certain GitHub repository that also present where you can change the source code of the Power App also, which was not present earlier. Now you got that particular capability also do it. Okay, and we do have the session recordings that are readily available, which we have conducted in the October 2020, the Global App is Apps Day 2020. If any of the people has the members missed this particular session, you can go to our D365 Champs YouTube channel and have a look at it.
Yep. So there is another update over here, which is not mentioned. So D365 D365 Champs is again coming up with the Power Up Trivia Quiz chapter for 2021. That will be started from the Feb, somewhere second or third week from the Feb. Okay, and that will be more kind of challenging one, as well as it will be very extensive as well. And please participate in that because you get really good goodies from the Microsoft and as well as from the champs if you go and participate as well as if you win. So last time we had shared the exam vouchers to the winners, if you know. So just go and get involved into it and try to win the same. The second update is our another kind of thing which we you do, like that is a empower student empowerment. So that we are starting work in one of the college in Pune, that is the Sinhagad College, which is located into Lonavala. So we are starting that particular sessions over there, empowering the students in Feb. That is the next week on the 8th, I think. And that are the two updates from my side as well. Yep, Venkata, go
Uh,
ahead.
so just Vivek, can we
Yep.
share the format of Power Up Trivia so that it can be going into recording? If you have that deck handy with you. If not, we can publish it later.
Yeah, I will publish it later, Dipesh. No worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. Thanks for sharing all that information.
Or we'll do that at the end of the session, so everyone will be there and they'll come to know what exactly we are going to do. That works, I think, right?
Okay.
Okay. And special thanks to our sponsors, Dynamicity, which keeps on helping us and supporting us in our in organizing all the meetups. And we also, Dynamicity is a trusted Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform partner, and it is has specific implementation in implementations, and it is specialized in upgrades and managed services and also training providers. So if you do have any such kind of requirements, please do reach out to our sponsor dynamicity.com, which was present in this particular slide. Thank you. So Sudhir, if you are ready, then I can stop sharing my screen and you can start it.
Yes, Venkat.
Okay, I am stop sharing my screen.
Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yes, Sudhir, we can see your screen.
Yep, thanks. So this is a quick introduction about me. I have been learning Dynamics 365 for the past 10 years and I have been working for various organizations. And these are the quick links. You can contact me for any further doubts on this session or for any other things, right? Okay, let's quickly jump into the agenda for today. So our today's topic is the TDS endpoint, the using SQL to connect to Dynamics 365 or Power Platform or the native database. As we all know, the native database for the Power Platform is CDS, which is now renamed to Dataverse. So I'll be using these two terms interchangeably because even I'm yet to completely adapt the word Dataverse. So just excuse me for that. So Dataverse. And we also talk about the limitation. So the TDS endpoint has been recently introduced. So it is still evolving. So whatever the limitations that we are going to see today, those stand as of today. So we may see improvements in the future. So keep just keep checking the updates from Microsoft on that. And we have a series of demos. I'll be spending more time on the demos than on the theoretical part because that makes more impact and people get to understand more from the demo. So have planned 4 demos today. I hope time would be suffice for that. So I'll be showing how do you connect to Dataverse using the SQL endpoint using Ssms and C# programming and Power BI. And if time permits, I'll also show another feature that is being introduced, which is still in preview mode, will be in general availability soon. The system dashboards with Power BI embedded, right? Okay. Uh, so now, what is the TDS endpoint? So historically, for the online CRM, so on-premises CRM, we do have the access to SQL and we have some views which are called as filtered views, using which we used to connect to data, and we used to generate some SSRS reports and all those stuff. And we used to use those views also in C# programming to run some complex queries and all. But in online CRM, we never had such flexibility to connect to data. All we have is only couple of endpoints, which are so all we have is web API and the organization service. But now Microsoft is introducing a third endpoint, which is SQL endpoint. Right now, let's talk about what is TDS. TDS or Tabular Data Stream. It's a protocol which is used for data interchange between a database server and a client. So here, client could be anything like a C# code or your SSMS or Power BI, whatever it could be. Right. So it was the TDS protocol was initially developed by Sybase Incorporation, but later was adapted by Microsoft, and it has been the standard protocol which is being used by Microsoft for the connections between SQL and Dynamics. Right. A few pointers for the TDS endpoint. It provides read-only access. You can't do any sort of updates using the SQL endpoint to Dynamics data. As I would like to repeat it again. This is as of today. Okay, so we might see the endpoint which supports write in future, but as of today, it is just a read-only endpoint that is enabled using this TDS protocol, right? And as of today, only Azure Active Directory authentication is supported. SQL authentication and Windows authentication are not supported to connect to the SQL endpoint, right? And another good thing about this endpoint is it supports that our security model. So the Azure Active Directory authentication, what you use, so whatever security model that account has, you would see data respecting the security model of that account, right? So, and yeah, TDS endpoint for SSMS is still in preview, but TDS using TDS endpoint for Power BI is in general availability today. Yeah, just keep that in mind. So whatever I'll be demoing for SSMS is still in preview. That might change. Now coming to the limitations, there is a limitation of 80 MB maximum size. The queries that you write, the data that you retrieve should be less than 80 MB. And another thing that you need to note is when you retrieve data, when you query data from SQL using SQL endpoint, the plugins that you have written on the retrieve request or retrieve multiple request will not fire. Right. So I don't see it as a limitation though, but because it makes sense, right? You are directly getting the data from a backend, which is SQL database. So there is no involvement of web API as such. So obviously the plugins will not fire. Right. And another big limitation is the queries that you perform using TDS endpoint execute under service protection API limits. So you have to keep that in mind. You need to make sure whenever you plan to use TDS endpoint, you need to make sure you are respecting the service protection API limits. Right. And there is a document provided by Microsoft which has differences between the actual the regular TDS endpoint versus the TDS endpoint which is enabled for Dataverse. So the regular transact SQL statements, all the transact SQL statements are not supported by the TDS endpoint that is given by Microsoft. So there is this link. I'll provide this link at the end. Here it outlines neatly what are all the data types that are supported, what are all the data types that are not supported while you use TDS endpoint to write queries, right? So all the select statements, joins, and everything is supported, but there are things which are not supported, such as data definition languages, data manipulation languages, like creating a table, deleting a table, and DML such as insert, merge, delete, those things, and TCL, DCL such as revert the transaction, commit the transaction, and store procedures. You cannot write any store procedures, and you cannot do these things. And there is a big list which is supported and which is not supported. There are such functions like aggregate, count, star, count and max, etc., which are supported, and there are functions which are not supported. So please go through this link. It is pretty straightforward. If you know SQL, you will very well connect to it and you'll understand it easily. And majority of the things which we generally use for querying the data for retrieve operations are supported. So there are very few exceptions. And of course, as I said, there no update thing is supported, right? So joins are supported. You can join multiple tables, as many tables as you want. So which is a big benefit. Where match, so these are all supported, right? So these are the limitations which we have to keep in mind before start using this TDS endpoint, before we are starting adapting to this TDS endpoint. Okay, so any questions so far, or you understood what is the theme? I mean, what is the concept of this endpoint and why Microsoft has come up with this? So it is, in short, it is additional endpoint using which we can access data.
So there are no questions as of now.
Mhm.
Sudhir, you can continue.
Yep, yep, sure. So let me start the demo. First of all, this is available by default for all the versions above 9.0.1. But one has to enable it. If you want to use the feature, you need to enable it. So to enable, just go to admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com and go to the environment for which you would like to enable the feature, and go to settings. And go to if you go to product and features, this is where you would see this TDS endpoint. By default, it would be turned off. You need to turn it on. There was a glitch which I have observed. It might not work for the first time. Just turn it on and try whether it is working or not. If it is not working, just turn it off and turn it on again. So that worked. Just keep that in mind. So if it is not working in the first place, don't worry, but just turn it off and turn it off again. It should work. Right. So this is where you turn it on. So Microsoft uses a environment. There is a flag organization setting, which is, I mean, when you turn it on, the organization setting would be turned to true from false. So there is other way you can use RDB settings tool and you can manually turn it on. But this is the easiest and simplest and best way to turn the feature on, right? So it will be effective immediately. There is no bad job or something which is doing behind the scenes. So the moment you turn it on and save it, it takes a couple of seconds to turn it on, and that's it. So you can start using it. You don't need to wait for any bad job to run behind the scenes, right? So once you turn it on, so first let me start with SSMS, because most of us would be familiar with SSMS. People who have worked with SQL in the past, or who worked with on-premises on-premises version of Dynamics CRM earlier. So you would easily connect to this. So this is SSMS, and to connect, all we need is the URL of the CRM. So this is the CRM that I'm using. This is the instance that I'm using for the demo today. So this is the URL. This is my organization and crm.dynamics.com, right? So I'm using the same thing, the organization.crm.dynamics.com. So earlier, like few weeks back, there was a requirement to add the port number, but now it is made optional. You don't need the port number anymore. All you need is the server, the environment URL. That's it. You don't need to type in any HTTPS or something, just this much. And you need to select Azure Active Directory password authentication. Only Azure Active Directory password will work as of today. No SQL authentication, no Windows authentication would work. And this is the same username that you use to connect to Dynamics CRM, right? And you give the same Azure Active Directory password, and this will make the connection. Okay. So what you observe is you would see a database with same name as of the your an environment name. So you're able to see my screen, or you want me to zoom in or zoom out, or is it just fine?
It's working, Sudhir.
It's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Yep. Cool. Let me know if you are unable to see something. I'll try zooming in or zooming out. Okay. Right. So now, if you observe here, it is clearly mentioned that this is read-only database. You cannot perform any write operations on this, right? And you would see all the tables which are available in just like on-premises, just like how you used to access the on-premises database. So most of the tables are available, but I do see some of the important tables missing out, such as principal object access. Unfortunately, principal object access is not available. Maybe Microsoft would introduce that in future, because that gives most important information for us, right? So accessing POA table from Web API is like it's a huge table. So but there are some other important tables which are available, such as async operation. Async operation, this table stores all the async queue, like all the async plugins and async workflows, queues, and system jobs. All of them would be queued up in this table, and our async services, async process would pick the async operations from this queue to run them. So if something is not working, something is stuck, instead of going into system jobs, you can come here and check, right? So this is sort of helpful. And I do see some few important tables like workflow tables, or the workflow log table is there, which you can, which are helpful for us to debug things or to understand what exactly is happening at the granular level, right? So if you observe what is there inside the table, so I'm just taking account as an example. So you could see all the columns, right? All the columns that are present in the account table. And apart from the columns, the another thing that is helpful to us is the indexes, right? You can also see the indexes that are available on the table readily here. So you would see all the indexes which are present on the account, but unfortunately, it's not giving us the definition of the indexes. Like as I said, DDL statements, data definition is not enabled. So even if you try to get the definition of the index or definition of the table or definition of the column, it would throw an error, which is expected because that is not yet supported, right? So it is pure read-only database. You can perform all the other operations, like if you want to see the data inside your table, you can very well do that. So unlike the original table, you would see the table names in singular form. Usually in the database, we used to have it as like accounts and contacts, such that, but here it is just account, right? So you can do many things with this name. And for option sets, like such as state code, you have both option set value as well as the option set label. If you see the state code, uh, along with the option set value, you would also see the label here, right? Which is best thing to get everything in a single go. Otherwise, in on-premises database, we used to either use the filtered views, or we used to inner join with the string map table, right? But here, this table itself gives things like this. Also, you would even for the lookups also, the name is enabled. So for that, so if you have any lookup, for the lookups also, you can just give the name at the end of the lookup field name. You would get the name of the entity. Or else, for example, let us take this parent account ID. Parent account ID is another lookup on the account entity. Right here, you would get the GUID. Just add the name at the end of it. It would give you the name of the, right? So this is the GUID, and this is the name of the parent account. This is how you access lookups, and the state code and state code name. The option sets also you can do such things. Right. So this is how you use SSMS to connect to your online CRM, and you can actually access the data inside it. And another way you can access is using C# code. So I have just written a small C# code using the SQL connection. I hope all of you are familiar with coding. So this is how you connect to any SQL server in general. So I'm not using any special classes or any special objects. This is just a connection string. All you need is connection string, and you make a SQL connection, and you open the connection, and you create a command object, and you just execute, right? So this is a connection string that you need to use to connect to CDS or Dataverse. This is the format. So all you need to do is mention the server name, and the authentication should be Active Directory password, and you need to mention your user ID and the password. That's it, right? And you will let me execute it and show it to you how it works. So it's no different from how you connect to any SQL server, right? Be it on-premises SQL server or Azure SQL server. So you don't need to learn or do anything. All you need to know is how to construct this connection string. And this is also no different. You use it for any sort of servers which are enabled with the Active Directory password, right? So now the query that I have performed is select count star from opportunity. And I did command at execute scalar, and you can see the count 89. So there are 89 opportunities in my system. So you would see the count instantly, right? And another thing that I did is selecting top 10 something from the contact table. So this is how you write any SQL statement, right? And you would see your data table filled with the respective data. So first name, last name, created by name, and state code name. So created by, if you observe carefully, like created by is a lookup, and we are actually getting the name of the entity that is in the lookup, and even state code is a option set, and you are actually getting the label of the thing. So it saves a lot of time. And if you are like used to SQL connections, and you're pro in SQL, so you can start using this so that you can make complex queries out of it, which are not supported by the fetch XML that we use for retrieving data from Web API, right? So this is more flexible. But you have to keep the limitations in mind. The data should be less than 80 MB, and whatever queries that you make, they fall under the service API limits. But most of us, like, we go with like single statement to get any sort of complex data. So that should not be a big deal is what I feel is, right? So this is a major benefit that we would get in a standalone application if you would like to connect to Dataverse. Of course, Web API is the best way, but Web API also comes with some sort of limitations which we can overcome with this sort of connection, right? So it gives us more flexibility. You can write SQL queries, which majority of the developers are familiar with. Right.
Sudheer, hi.
Yes.
We have two questions and a raised hand. So would you want to take it now?
Yes, we can.
The first question is from Prashant. He's asking, does this mean we will now be able to get the total number of accounts, contacts, etc., just by querying in SQL?
Right.
All right.
Right.
The second.
So count is allowed, as I showed yesterday. Yes, this is allowed. Either you can use SSMS, just you want to see the count, or you can use C# code if you are familiar with C# code. This is very well supported.
Great, and he's happy with that.
Yeah.
Sorry. continue?
Go ahead. Yes, please. I'm just showing another example where you can use aggregate functions. So the max, min, all the aggregate functions are supported.
Oh, that's awesome. Prashant, I'm hoping that you are happy with the answer. The next question is, do we have to install something on your system to perform it, or that window you're demonstrating is within Admin Center? Prashant,
No,
do you?
I actually didn't get. So to enable the feature, you're asking, or to?
Sudhir,
Yes.
is that SQL client you are using it, right? That
This
is
is
the question is right.
SSMS. Yeah, this
SSM.
is SSMS, the SQL Server Management Studio that we use to connect to any Microsoft SQL Server. So yes, you need to install the SSMS from Microsoft Store.
Sorry, it was like because it's within Admin Center when you open it. So I thought maybe it's within Admin Center.
No,
Sorry.
no. Sorry if I gave that impression. So this is SSMS standalone application.
All right. Harshal, you had raised your hand. Are you there? Okay, no problem.
Yep.
I'll take
I'll continue
no.
then.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, sure. So the next demo is, I hope you all understood how do you connect to CDS or Node the Dataverse using SSMS as well as C#, right? So C# code, it also make sure that so you can also use SSIS if you're using any other sort of SSIS packages or any other tools which supports the SQL endpoint to be connected. So you can use this in all those scenarios. Like SSIS is one of the example. You can use SSIS instead of using if you don't want to use Web API, you can use the SQL connection using this authentication method. So the provided the client supports Active Directory password authentication. Any client for that matter, such as SSIS. Right. So if no doubts on that, I'll jump onto the Power BI consuming data from using Power BI via the TDS endpoint. Right. Okay. So before TDS endpoint came into picture, the only way using which you can connect to Dataverse from Power BI is the Web API, right? So there are two ways, like you can use the Web API like a plain Web API endpoint, or Dynamics also provided a couple of out-of-the-box adapters, which can be adapters are I would say them as connectors, which you can use, right? So to get data, let me show what we have all these days to connect to Dynamics data. The first one is the legacy Dynamics CRM online connector. This is still in place, but it is going to be deprecated. So it is not suggested to use this. And the second one is the under the if you go to Power BI get data, you would see this Power Platform tab. Under the Power Platform tab, before this came into general availability, all you have is this CDS out of the box adapter. So this uses Web API internally and is customized for Power BI, right? So now the new addition to the Power BI connectors is the Dataverse connector. And if you observe the tooltip here, when I hold the mouse, the tooltip says connect to Dataverse through its SQL endpoint. So that means the connector which is newly introduced, it uses SQL endpoint, but not the regular Web API endpoint, right? So there are two ways. So the best way is this, and other way is to connect to database directly. So like you can directly try to connect to SQL Server, and you just treat your Dataverse as normal SQL. You can give the server URL just like how you did it in SSMS, right? You can just give the server URL, and I'll show using the other way, because that makes more. Okay, so just get data, go to more, and go to Power Platform tab and go to Dataverse, right? Just click on connect. It'll ask the environment domain. So here you need to give the same information. And if you observe here, there are two modes using which you can connect to the Dataverse. So this is the only way where the direct query is enabled. So basic difference between these two is when you select import, right, what happens is the entire data set on which the report is created, the entire data set would be imported into your Power BI service, which is altogether separate from your Power Platform, Dataverse, right? So the entire data would be imported into the Power BI service and the report would be generated on the imported data. And that data would be synced between your Dataverse and your Power BI service on a regular frequency. Usually it would be 24 hours. You can be change it to 1 hour, or you can pull it or push it on demand. Like you can using Flow or some other online Azure function or some online services, you need to explicitly push the data to Power BI service just in case if you want some data to be pushed to Power BI service on demand, right? Otherwise, it would keep refreshing it every 24 hours. So that's how the import concept works. But when you talk about direct query, no data is imported into Power BI service. Instead, when you run the report, Power BI will make a direct query to the database, Dataverse in this case. So, and it will pull the data and show it on the report. So that's how it makes it real time. So what does that mean is the moment I create a new record or make changes to Dataverse data and I run the Power BI report, you see the instant real time data in the Power BI rather than the data which is synced in the last refresh. So right. So that's a major benefit that you would get from this endpoint, and this is the only if you use Web API, you can't achieve the real-time integration between real-time reports from Power BI. And another advantage with this is you can make it run under the user who is actually running the Power BI report. Right. So in other connectors like CDS normal connector or plain OData endpoint connector, you need to give a user ID and password to make establish the connection, and Power BI report will run under that user context always, right? You cannot make the Power BI report run under the current user context, but with this you can make it work. So I'll show you that. I'll show how that works in real time. So let's start with it. So hope you understood the difference between import and direct query. So we would be using the direct query for this demo because import you could have seen in all the other types of and the direct query is what we are intending and which is useful, more useful for us, right? And again, there is a drawback for this. Usually it takes more time than the import mode. Obviously, because the data Power BI need to make a query to Dynamics and get the Dataverse and get the data from there. Whereas import, the data is readily available in. So there would be a lag of 1 or 2 seconds or more based on the complexity of the query or data size that you're retrieving the report. But you need to come to if the real time is the need, you have to go to direct query, right? So the moment you do that, you would see your connection right here. And you would see all the tables here, which are available in the TDS endpoint, just like how you observed in the Ssms, right? So you would see all the tables here. You can select the entity on which you would like to run the report for demo. I'm taking opportunity entity. So it will evaluate and it will load the metadata of the opportunity table. Okay, so meanwhile it loads, let me show you the reports that I have already created. So this is the Power BI report that I have already created. Okay, so it is detecting table schema.
So meanwhile it's loading. Um, uh, there was one question from my side. Is it okay? Can I ask?
Yes, yep, yes,
So the way we have the limitations in terms of retrieve and retrieve multiple with the normal web services, so there should not be any restrictions like 5,000 records or kind of thing with these direct queries, right?
correct,
Or
correct.
there are any?
There is no count limit, but as I told earlier, there's a limit of the size of 80 MB. So if you're just retrieving the GUIDs, there would be no such limitations.
80 MB, you mean, right?
Yeah, 80 MB is the data size.
Okay, means it can be 1,000 records. It could be a 100,000 records as well, right?
Yes, yes, yep.
Okay, depending on what number of columns and
Column,
all
yes,
things we
yep,
are taking.
yep.
Okay,
I hope it would be increased in the future. I hope.
okay, no worries. Thank you.
Yep. So this is the Power BI. Now, as you see, the schema of the opportunity entity is loaded now. Now you can like create any visual just like how you create in any Power BI report. So I just created this. I'll just quickly show for the benefit of for doing it for the first time. Right, I'm just creating a simple chart which will show us the number of opportunities by the status.
Okay. Sudhir, time check last 15 minutes.
Yep, yep, yep. So yeah, okay, so this is how you create the Power BI report using the endpoint, and you will publish this, right? So the moment you publish this, it'll come and sit in your Power BI service, right? So this is the thing which I already created and published. So this is simple chart which would show a pie chart, number of opportunities based on status, and estimate the total estimated revenue and total number of opportunities, right? And one more thing I would like to show is so whenever you create in the Power BI, you created a report and this is the data set that you have used, right? So you use the connection, show the properties of the data set so that you would understand how it actually works, right? So I'm going to the settings of the data set. So data set here, nothing but the Tds endpoint. And if you see here, the data source credentials. So just go to data source credentials here and click on the edit credential, and you have to select the O authentication. So that's the only thing after all, and just select the organization. And this is the important thing that you need to understand. So if you want the report to run under a admin context or one single user's context, you can keep it, you can sign in with the admin account, or if you would like to run the report on the user's context, you have to check this. And as it is clearly explained here, so the people who are willing to access the Power BI report for the first time, they would be asked to authenticate themselves. So they will enter their own user ID password, and the Power BI report will run under that user's context. And of course, the user who is running the report should have a Power BI license. That's most obvious, right? To run the Power BI, they should have the license. But to access the data and to see the data of the Dataverse, they should have access to Dataverse, of course. And by checking this, the Power BI report would run under the user's context rather than single user who created the report. Unlike the other modes like OData endpoint or the out-of-the-box CDS connector or Dynamics Online connector, right? So this is a major benefit that you would get with TDS endpoint. So all these days before TDS came into picture, the creating Power BI reports in Dynamics 365 was a pain because it won't respect the user's access and it is not real time. It takes some time to refresh the data. So these two major concerns are now overcome by the TDS endpoint, right? So all you need to do is check this checkbox and do a one-time sign in, right? So I already did it, so it's otherwise you need to give username. So this is the only setting that you need to perform, and right. So obviously you create once you. I hope all of you know the process of the Power BI. I'm not covering the process because it is out of scope. I'm uh, completely covering the TDS part only, just for the benefit if you want to understand. So the moment you publish the report, that will come into one of the workspaces. And once that is done, another thing that you need to make sure is you open the report and you need to pin it to a dashboard, which means you need to make it part of a dashboard. I already did so. So this is my dashboard, right? Power BI dashboard. Now this dashboard you can include in the include it here. So all these days, so the one that is ready available is you can create a new dashboard here and you can create a Power BI dashboard. But when if you, this will be a user dashboard, right? So if I come to Dynamics and go to dashboards and click on the new and click on Power BI dashboard, and I can add the dashboard from Power BI into Dynamics. But if I go by this route, it would be a personal dashboard, which means only I can see the dashboard. But optionally, I can share that dashboard with external user, I mean some other users, but that becomes their own dashboard. So whoever I have shared with, only those people can see the dashboard under their personal dashboards section, right? But there is another feature which came in, which is in currently, which is in preview, using which you can create system dashboards which are Power BI embedded. Right. So please note that this is in preview mode, whatever I'm showing right now. So to do so, you need to go to make.powerapps.com, create a solution, and under the solution, go to new and go to dashboards. Here you would see Power BI embedded, right? So if you create a dashboard, Power BI dashboard from here, it would become a system dashboard, which means everybody in the system would get access to the dashboard. And of course, to access the Power BI chat within that, they need to have Power BI license. Otherwise, it would throw licensing errors and all, right? So that is there, right? So you just go to Power BI embedded. And when you do that, here it would ask whether you would like to, right? So you just select the dashboard here. So I have two workspaces in my tenant. I'll just go to the tenant and I'll pick the dashboard, which I have created from there, right? And that's it. So once you do that, so there is another way you can use the most recommended way is to use the environment variable, because you don't use the same dashboard for all the environments, right? Like test, dev, and higher environments. In such cases, usually it is recommended to use environment variable and keep updating the Power BI dashboard name in the environment variable so that you don't need to do this manually in all the environments, right? Just for demo purpose, I'm just using the plain steps here. Just select the Power BI dashboard, select the dashboard that you just created, right? So once you do that, I already did that. So these are my Power BI dashboards, right? So the opportunity summary is the Power BI dashboard that I have created, published to my Power BI service, and this is a system dashboard that I have created. Okay, and yep, that's it. You would see the reports here, and it takes some time. It's not as fast as import mode Power BI reports because it is making the real-time query to Dynamics Dataverse. Usually it won't be this slow, maybe because it is trial environment or my network issues, but I don't believe it would be this slow in live environment. Right, so this is a Power BI dashboard and this is real time. Let me show that. Right, so currently I have 89 opportunities and 212 million estimated revenue, and this is the breakup. And the moment I create a new opportunity here, I'll give a revenue of say 30 million just to increase the chat. Right, so now there is a new entry. As of today, there are 89 and 212. I'm creating a new opportunity and just refresh. You would instantly see the latest figures here. So in earlier modes, like using the CDS out of the box connector, Dynamics 365 out of the connector, this won't happen. Because the Power BI data source, data service, Power BI service should be refreshed with data verse service that will be refreshed once in a day. So now you see the number of opportunities is increased and the estimated revenue is increased because this is taking data live from your dataverse. And the another important thing that I was explaining is respecting the security rules. So currently I'm the sysadmin, so I'm seeing everything. So I have another user in my tenant who is sales user. I'll open the, I'm opening CRM with some other user who has salesperson security role, who does not have access to all the opportunities in the system. Right, earlier to achieve this, there were some other ways. We need to create roles in Power BI rather than, and we need to map users to the respective roles. Right, as the now the system, I have created a system dashboard, so I don't need to explicitly share the dashboard with the user. The dashboard would automatically be visible to the user provided he has the right security role.
Okay, Sudhir. Sudhir, can we take questions from the audience?
Yes. So this is the last thing.
Okay.
I'll take 1 more minute just to show how does it respect the security role of the individual user. Okay, so it takes few seconds to load. Meanwhile, the other thing that I'll quickly show how does the other data sources work. So this is another report. This is another report that I have created with the old CDS connector. If you observe the data source credentials here, there is no checkbox to select to render report via the user login, right? So the option is available only for the Tds endpoint. And if you see the refresh schedule, you can only refresh this daily or weekly. Right, so if what happens is, what does this mean is the Power BI service would be refreshed with Dataverse on daily basis. So you cannot make it lesser frequency, or you can do on-demand refreshes. That's another thing, but that becomes manual refresh, right? But for with this sort of thing, there is no such thing. Yeah, if you see here, this is the same Power BI report. I logged in with another user, sales user, not my Sudheer Reddy _ this thing. This user has only one up, so only one opportunity is owned by him, so he can see only one opportunity with 1 million revenue, and this it. So you can check that here, right? So all opportunities. This user has only one opportunity on his name, so the dashboard, the Power BI respects his security roles and all, because this chart is running under his context. For the very first time, you need to log in and it remembers the credentials, and next time onwards you would see this. Yep. So that's all from my side. I hope I have covered all. Yep, that's it. Yes, Venkat, you can.
Yeah, thanks Sudhir. Thanks for your session. Uh, so participants, if do you have any questions regarding this particular session, you are feel free to ask.
there was one question which I don't know whether it's been addressed or not. It was again from Prashant. Like, this feature is independent of Dynamics 365 or MDA because we are querying Dataverse.
Mhm. Yes, yes. So it is independent of Dynamics 365. You can also consume tables created for Teams for Dataverse. So I don't know much details about that concept, but I mean, you how to use Dataverse for Teams, but those people who know that, for them, you can generate Power BI reports for those tables also, the tables which are created for Teams. It is independent of Dynamics 365, right?
Okay, so guys, anyone has queries, so you can just unmute yourself and just ask the question rather typing and waiting for the things.
Yeah, I'll be on the Teams for a few more minutes if required. Yeah, if any questions, please shoot out.
Okay. It was very nice and informative session, and there are so many things which we saw, Sudhir, which almost everyone might have chased for a long. So thank you for giving us such a nice session, Sudhir, and we would like to hear you in future as well. If you have some more
Definitely.
topics
Yeah,
and this
sure.
much of inner technicalities and in details. So thank you once again. Thank you all for joining us. So
Yeah, I'll
if this
share
is
this PPT with you so you can share with the team where I have included some references from Microsoft documents as well as some private blogs also, which are useful for this feature. So which would be helpful.
sure, Sudhir, we'll share that.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, Sudhir. It was a great session, and
thank you.
it must have taken you a lot of time. I always add that point. So thank you for doing that and coming out and sharing so much knowledge in one go for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is one announcement which we had done about the Power Up trivia. I'll just quickly go and share the screen for how we are going to take it. So Dipesh will take that particular um, uh, thing up to you, like how it's gonna happen. So I'll just quickly going and sharing the thing.
Okay, Vivek, if it's over to me, I will do that. Not a problem.
Okay, so you'll share the screen.
No, you will need to help me with the screen sharing for sure, Vivek. I don't have
Okay,
the presentation handy at my end right now, and I would not like to summarize it.
okay, just give me a moment. I'm just sharing my screen now. Okay, hope you can see the screen.
Yeah, so we will thank Nishita for this effort. So Nishita Hegde has been our QM for almost the last year entire, and she has come up with a plan. We fine-tuned this, and I'm going to support her on this. Power Up Trivia 2021, that's the way it is going to be conducted. We are changing the format a bit. There will be a Microsoft form links on Kaizala. There will be a total of 3 rounds this time. Total 8 quizzes per quarter. Qualifiers, semi-finals, and final. The final will be a live event if you want to just ask. So if you keep it kind of level based quiz this time around, and if you come to the final level every quarter, it will be a live quiz event that we'll be doing as a part of Power Up Trivia. Nishita will be hosting it, and I'll be supporting her as a lead. And if you're interested in joining in as a person to organize this, more than welcome to join in. And there will be some different kinds of question types, including audio visuals, for improving engagement metrics for all of us and improving our learning. That's the idea. Quizmaster on this is Nishita, and I am supporting as a community lead. If you are having more members who can contribute, then it's great. So round one will be done 4 quarter trivia for each component. Then we'll do semi-final, 4 trivia with a mystery box quiz that will qualify top scorer for the final. And then in final, we'll do a live team quiz. So that's the format we are going to use this time. I hope you are going to benefit from it. So that's going to start from 11th of February. So just participate in it. We're going to share it through all our social media and Kaizala link. Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, Dipesh, for sharing the details. Um, and thank you all for joining us. We hope you go and give us a good response on this particular Power Up trivia as well. where you can go and check your skills as well as you can get some more insights, some more answers to your questions or something new on your day-to-day basis. So thank you everyone for joining today's session. Venkata, you want to take the closing note?
Yeah, Venkata, please go ahead.
Yes, thanks Sudhir. Thanks for joining. It was a great session. It is to generally it was an lot of things to grab, but it glimpses the old SQL way of querying all the database related things. So especially for the data wars, it is very much helpful. And thanks for Vivek and Dipesh for organizing this and helping me to do it. And thanks for all the members that who joined here. And please feel free to drop any messages in the LinkedIn or in Twitter. And if you wanted to speak in this particular meetup, I have shared all those details in this chat window. You can use it. Thanks for joining and have a nice weekend.
Yep. So Sudhir and
Thank
we'll be
you.
there for a couple of more minutes. So if you have any queries, you can put it in your chat window and we can take it from there. Or you can actually get connected with Sudhir using the credentials and the links which has been shared, and you can directly check the things with Sudhir. Thank you, Sudhir. I'm just stopping the
Thank you.
recording.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Venkata, for organizing this. It takes effort. Thank you for Roma and
Thanks, everyone.
Prashant to be assisting as well. And thanks to all the camp leads and the organizers who have attended this and enthusiastically contributed to all things we do at camp. Thank you, Sudhir, again.